Hey everyone, John P here. Today we're going to be talking about the new Omega Seamaster Aqua Terra 38. Yes, this watch that was announced over a year and a half ago has finally started to hit the shelves of authorized dealers and boutiques. I'm going to share with you a video of me handling the watch, showing you a few things, and also I'm going to be talking about why either Omega has started to unfortunately cheap out on their watches, or it's by design and they're taking the Aqua Terra line into an entirely different direction. So make sure to stick with the video. And no, guys, for those of you that do not watch this channel frequently, you probably wouldn't know, but I really do enjoy Omega watches. On the wrist today, I actually have an Aqua Terra two-tone, a bit of an older model, but I also have a couple of other Omega watches in my personal collection, including two other Aqua Terras, the Aqua Terra Good Planet 38.5 millimeters in titanium, and I also have a Marui dial, a very cool red dial Aqua Terra. So I actually really like the Aqua Terra line and Omega as a whole. So this video is not in any way meant to, try to talk down on Omega watches, because I think overall they do a really great job. But this particular model, which I've been following because of the smaller size, is just not at all what I expected based on the photos and a lot of the literature surrounding the watch for over the last year and a half. So the Omega Seamaster Aqua Terra 38 millimeters. Yes, this is the watch. It is here. There's many different colors, and that is a whole new direction for the Aqua Terra in terms of the dials, and that's really what people were attracted to looking at the photos of this particular reference for, once again, over the last year and a half, is the dials. These very interesting, metallic and shiny and really beautiful dials. That's kind of where it was at. And the last generation of Aqua Terras we're having, for the most part, a bit of a textured dial with either some lines or some other textures out there, depending. There was a wave dial on a smaller size and a couple of others, but now they've gone into a non-textured or barely textured metallic dial, if you want to put it that way, but certainly not a deep texture. And we got one of these watches in at delraywatch.com. We took it in on a trade. The person that bought it actually fell out of love with it, apparently, immediately after purchasing the watch. And I can understand why, because it's not the watch in the photos. We'll talk about that, but let's look at the watch. Let's get it under the camera here. I know I'm getting very passionate about it, but it's just something that is kind of a bummer because I like to see Omega win. But as you can see right away, the dial is beautiful, right? This is the particular dial that is codenamed the Saffron, which is a bit of an orange or a burnt sienna, kind of depending on the lighting situation, kind of that, that fall tone, if you will, kind of like a fall leaves tone, if we want to talk about it in terms of, maybe Grand Seiko nomenclature. But nonetheless, beautiful watch, and it does feature the caliber 8800 coaxial movement, which is finely decorated as you would expect from Omega. And initial impressions of this watch are, especially on the wrist, it sits beautifully, sits comfortably at 38 millimeters, great for, that 6 to 7.5 inch wrist size. So it fits very well for me, and I like that. But I have to get into the case finishing as well as the bracelets. And this is the problem that I have with this particular watch. Now, if you look at the pictures, it looks like the Aqua Terra finishing and bracelet is going to be like pretty much all the other Aqua Terras have it. You're going to have a mixture of brushing and polishing, and it's not going to be too dressy, though Omega has kind of gone a little bit in that direction if we want to consider some of the recent releases from them. But setting that aside, in the pictures, it looks different in person, because when we look at the bracelet in the case, it's really high polish. It's all high polish for the most part. There's no brushing. Now, it is true that on the bracelet, there's a mixture of two different types of high polish, and one of the high polish is slightly less of a high polish. If we want to talk about polishing in terms of being totally dull to super high polish to the most extreme, this is, 9 and 10 on that scale. There's not that much contrast between these two metals, and even just kind of some chatter around the office. People in our office were saying, hey, this kind of looks like it might even, be a different type of metal than stainless steel, just because of the type of polishing they use is different than what they've done on their previous Aqua Terras, right? If you consider the other Aqua Terras they've released, the sides of the case are brush, and there's a mixture of brushing as well as polishing, especially in contrast of the top of the case, the side of the case, and the individual links. But what we have here is essentially, or very close to, one finish on pretty much the entire watch. Now, what does this mean? Well, it either means that Omega is trying to go more in the vein of Rolex Datejust, which, yes, there is a bit of a different polishing method used on the Datejust, but the Datejust compared to the Oyster Perpetual, the Oyster Perpetual is more casual, and the modern day Datejust is more high polish, including the bezel. And so that's kind of a difference here because the Aqua Terra was more in line with the Oyster Perpetual in the mixture of the brushing and the polishing, and now it's kind of gone to all high polish. And you see that follow through to the bracelet as well. Omega has always mixed finishing on bracelets, and that's given a little bit of extra pop, a little extra kind of pizzazz, in my opinion, that gives it more depth and more contrast and just looks cooler on the wrist than instead of just being, hey, look how shiny and flashy my watch is. And for a watch brand that's known for their tool watch, their sports watch, their professional watches, right? Landing on the moon, going to the depths of the seas, doing things in life that require, or I should say don't require you to just say, hey, I have a flashy thing on my wrist. That's not what this bracelet is. This is more of a Rolex presidential day date, right? This is more in line with a Rolex presidential day date bracelet, which is fine if that's what you're going for. It's just not what I personally expected from not only the Aqua Terra line, which quite literally means water, land, right? This is a watch that's meant to be worn on both, and it's supposed to be a little bit sportier. That's kind of what's been in all the imagery of the particular model. And now it seems to be a little bit more metro, if you will, right? A little bit more made to be just kind of worn on the street of New York City or something like that, or Los Angeles, and less, out there climbing a mountain, but then, walking into your office. Less of that, more of this kind of fashion-forward type thing, high polish, fancy, and that's the direction they appear to be taking this line, at least in this size. But overall, I really do think that the watch has a lot of potential. I think if they change the finishing to be more in line with what they've done on other references and other watches historically from the brand, it would be such a great watch, especially because of that dial. And I like the dials. I like the dials across the board from this collection. I just think that it's in either the wrong case with the wrong bracelet, or they need to change the finishing. I'm not exactly positive because, I don't do refinishing and I don't do any of that. It might just be the type of metal that they used, right? We'll leave that up for Omega to decide. But I do think that if you are looking for a shiny, flashy watch, more in line of an extreme high polish example of a Datejust or a day date, then this might be a watch for you, especially if you like the dial and you're okay with the price increase, because let's keep in mind Omega did increase the price on this watch compared to the other 38 sizes that they did have previously with the different dials that were about $400 or $500 less. So high polish, higher price, and a little bit different direction they're taking this watch. In summation, I think it's cool. Change that stuff that I mentioned, and I think they could have a real solid offering that maybe I would even wear. I personally was going to buy one of these watches, but now I'm not, and I'm actually probably going to get one of their older references because I just think that they did it right then for me personally. But I want to know, what do you think about this new collection? Is it for you? Is it not? I'd love to see it in here in the comments below. Once again, I'm not against Omega. I personally own 4 or 5 of them, including several Aqua Terras. I just would like to see them continue to offer what has made them such a respected brand in the watch community. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.